Imagine opening your bathroom cabinet and finding a plain white bottle with one word on it: medicine. No dosage, no warning label, no side effects, no note about what condition it treats. You probably wouldn't swallow it just because the label sounded reassuring, but a strange amount of life advice works exactly like that. So why can advice that helped one person damage another? And what warning label is usually missing? One way to think about advice is as compressed experience. Someone lived through a complicated situation, made a decision, and something worked. Later, that messy experience got squeezed into one memorable sentence. A person almost quit, kept going, and broke through. The lesson becomes, never give up. Someone stopped chasing approval, chose work that mattered, and felt alive. The lesson becomes, follow your passion. Compression is useful, it makes experience portable, but it has a cost. It strips out the conditions. It takes something that was true somewhere for someone under specific pressure and makes it sound true everywhere, for everyone, all the time. And that's when advice starts to shift. At first you ask, is this useful here? But over time the question quietly changes to, what kind of person would I be if I stopped following it? That's the moment a tool becomes a trap. Take follow your passion. At its best, this advice protects something important. The idea that your life shouldn't be built entirely from other people's expectations. Curiosity and meaning matter, but without conditions, it can teach a quieter lesson. If the work feels hard, maybe it isn't your passion. A writer starts a weekly essay project. For the first few weeks, everything glows. Then week 6 arrives. The essay is not bad enough to abandon, not good enough to trust. The work has entered what every craft eventually reaches, the part that stops feeling like the trailer and starts feeling like the job. And if the writer believes passion should feel like constant certainty, that friction becomes evidence. Maybe the real passion is somewhere else. Psychologists Paul O'Keefe, Carol Dweck, and Gregory Walton studied whether people treat interests as fixed, something you discover, or as developed, something that grows with effort. Their research suggests that a fixed view of interest can make people less open to unfamiliar fields and more likely to disengage when a new pursuit becomes difficult. In other words, find your passion can accidentally make passion sound like buried treasure, when many interests behave more like a fire. They need contact, repeated attention, and time before they produce warmth. A more useful label: use when curiosity keeps returning after contact with reality. Stop when you're only chasing the feeling of inspiration. Pair with practice and feedback. Now take never give up. This advice solves a real problem. People do quit too early. They abandon projects in the first valley, when the work is awkward but not impossible. In those moments, persistence is a useful antidote to emotional weather. But without a label, persistence can become a loyalty program for sunk cost. A builder spends 18 months polishing a product nobody clearly wants. The landing page improves, the logo improves, the market response stays quietly unmoved. Psychologist Carsten Wrosch and colleagues studied how people respond to goals that become unattainable. Their work suggests that the ability to disengage from blocked goals and re-engage with meaningful alternatives can be part of adaptive self-regulation, not because quitting is always the answer, but because a life with no ability to update can become a very disciplined form of stuck. The missing label: use when the mission still matters and the strategy is still learning. Stop when reality keeps returning the same answer and your effort is only protecting your identity. Pair with scheduled review points. Then there's stay positive. Positivity can interrupt genuine spirals. One failed launch doesn't have to narrate your entire future. But without conditions, positivity can become emotional wallpaper. It covers the crack without asking why the wall is moving. A creator imagines the future version working, the clean dashboard, the growing audience, the feeling of finally being consistent. The fantasy gives a small burst of relief, but what doesn't get imagined is the first upload with bad audio, the confusing analytics, or the useful but annoying feedback. Gabriele Oettingen's research on future thinking draws an important distinction. Positive expectations grounded in reality tend to function differently from positive fantasies, the kind where you mentally enjoy the desired outcome without confronting the obstacles. Some findings suggest that fantasy alone can reduce the energy that would otherwise go into preparation. A stronger version of positivity isn't ignore the obstacle, it's hope plus obstacle. Use when discouragement is distorting the picture. Stop when it prevents you from looking at information. Pair with obstacle planning. Still, the point isn't that popular advice is secretly poison. These phrases survive because they solve real problems. Follow your passion can rescue someone from a life chosen for approval. Never give up can protect a beginner during the normal ugliness of learning. Stay positive can keep one difficult day from becoming a worldview. The danger begins when advice keeps speaking after the situation has changed. One useful experiment is what you might call the advice label test. Before you follow a piece of advice, add 3 missing lines. Use when, stop when, and pair with. Use when, ask what situation this advice was designed for. Stop when, ask what signal would prove it's no longer helping. Pair with, ask what counterweight keeps it from becoming extreme. Over the next 24 hours, you might try this on one phrase you already live by, write it down, add the 3 labels, and see whether the advice still fits, or whether you've been taking someone else's medicine at the wrong dose. Because that bottle in your cabinet may not be poison, the advice may be genuinely good, but before you build your identity around it, check the label. If this reframed something for you, subscribe for more animated explainers that question what the usual advice leaves out.